Hello and welcome to our Aging Life Care Moment. And today we have with us former ALCA Executive Director Laury Gelardi. Laury, tell us how it was and how you got started with the Aging Life Care Association.
Hi, thank you for having me. First of all, I should say I've never been a care manager. I have an MBA with an undergraduate degree in sociology and psychology. I was the owner of an association management company in Tucson, and it was Rona and Peter Strauss, an elder law attorney, who first came to me in 1986. It was late 1986, and said, "We know you're managing the elder law attorneys, and we think maybe you'd be a good fit for us as well." And so it was kind of a perfect storm because Peter served on both boards. Sarah Cohen, who was the first president of the Geriatric Care Managers, which was the name at the time, had moved to Tucson. And so it all just kind of came together, and we had just started out working in this field. And so it was a great fit to put us together, put GCM together and the elder law attorneys together, and for us to learn as a whole staff, the whole area, and to grow with it as the area grew. So we started in September of 1986 with the National Association of Private Geriatric Care Managers, which was what the name of it was at the time. And we were just thrilled to get the account and to really jump into this new area that we could see was just getting ready to blossom. Over the years, and it was 20 years, the boards that we worked with were incredible. The energy that came out of this group was amazing and mirrored the elder law attorneys in many, many ways. We saw a coming together of the country from the East Coast and the West Coast, the best minds of care managers and elder law attorneys. And it was very interesting. We saw big pods of them coming from California and New York initially, and then filling in throughout the Midwest and the Southeast as well, as people came forward and said, "Wow, this is what we're doing, and this is what we feel like is our home." And everybody that joined would say, "This is what I've been looking for," but they didn't know it was out there. And so we had all these amazing people coming forward saying, "We don't know how to advertise. We don't know how to form a business. We know our profession. We don't know how to get clients because this is a whole new area for everybody." And so everybody was very open and sharing and caring and wanting to develop this area. And I felt so blessed to be a part of it because it was just very, very exciting. So we jumped in, and the association developed on many different levels. It developed professionally. We moved from private to professional. It then became the National Association of Professional Geriatric Care Managers, as the non-for-profits spoke up and said, "You're excluding us by saying you're only private care managers." But the private care managers really wanted to keep an emphasis on the quality and on the openness and on the growth beyond, and really wanted to look beyond the RNs and the MSWs as they moved forward. It was an amazing time. It was an absolutely amazing time. And we could see that it was going to be a tremendous branding experience because the public didn't know anything about this area. The elder law attorneys were naming the field of elder law. That didn't exist within the American Bar Association. The geriatric care managers were naming the field of geriatric care management. Initially, when you said that term, nobody knew what it meant. And so we really had to explain at every turn to the media, to clients, to people who called in and said, what is this? What can we do? What are we doing? Even to our own members, what was the scope of what they could do? And everybody was excited on all different levels. Chapters began developing, regions began developing. They were all very significant in the growth of the organization because that's what got people involved and got people excited. I just can't tell you what an amazing time it was and what talented people are within this organization. With the 20 boards that we went through, I wish I could count up the number of volunteer hours that people gave or the number of dollars that they sunk into this organization. People traveled at their own expense to come to meetings. Board members came to board training sessions because most of them had never served on boards before. So we did a lot of board training, which was a lot of fun to do, but a lot of hard work. The strategic planning, as anybody who knows who's gone through it, was painful, but very productive, and very challenging at the time. So it was a time that I think everybody that looks back on would be very proud of, but probably glad that it's over. And very proud of where you are now and where you're moving to. The profession itself, it was interesting because it was developing so quickly and the members were so concerned about the quality that they really needed to develop the credentialing. They needed to look at defining who the members were and weren't going to be. We had people coming out of the woodwork, some who were qualified, some who weren't. We had nurses aides who thought they could be geriatric care managers. And it was a tough time to really go through and try and figure out how to hold on to it and not let it go. We had insurance companies coming out of the woodwork. We had assisted living just starting to come up the pipeline and get started. And they were calling and saying, what do you all do? And are you going to be competition for us? Are you going to refer to us? What, are you going to take clients away from us? You know, what exactly are you going to do? And the hospitals kind of felt the same way. They couldn't quite figure out where we fit in either. And so it was a massive education job, both to our members and also to our public. The association likewise had to develop. It had to develop the entire structure of the association. And with people trying to develop their own businesses, it was tough to also sink the time and the effort and the money into developing the association. But I think we did a pretty good job of getting there. The baby boomers were just beginning to emerge. And that's really what brought this all together. That whole generation just really started to realize the power they had, the spending power that they had, the psychological power that they had, the generational power that they had. And we had to figure out how to kind of shift the expectation from everything's going to be paid for to some things might need to be paid for privately. And that was probably the toughest nut to crack. to get people over that hurdle. And you may still be working on that one. I think that might get a little easier, or you may see some of those services covered more by some of the insurance companies in the future. We were introducing this whole area to a whole new generation, and it was just stimulating as heck, because newspapers would call, and I think it's all of this started out with the article in the New York Times. But the Wall Street Journal ended up being our best friend. We had great articles in the Wall Street Journal. We had a reporter there that is still there, who did lots of articles on us and did great articles. She's a family lifestyle writer, and she was very interested in geriatric care management. And so she was always looking forward with us, which was great. So we had a staff that grew from 3 to 25. And of course, we were a management company, so we were servicing several different associations, but it allowed us to get staff with some real expertise in a lot of different areas, which was terrific. We developed lots of conferences and meetings and seminars. I was on the road a lot, and so I got to see a lot of the chapters and meet a lot of the members, which was terrific. That was probably my pride and joy, was really getting to know the members. And I have to tell you, if people get involved in the organization, they will never regret it. There wasn't anybody I talked to that spent the money to come to a conference, that went to chapter meetings, that got involved on a committee, who didn't feel that it paid them back in multiples, because they learned from each other. They developed friendships. They developed professional relationships. They had somebody to call when they had a problem. They had somebody to call when they had a success. And that doesn't always happen in your own neighborhood. And so it was really nice. It was really nice to see that happen and actually come together. And it's nice to see that you still have some of those people on your boards. Steve Barlam, who is still on your board, was one of the presidents when I was executive director. And Diane McGraw, I had to think of what her married name is now, was one of my presidents, and wonderful to work with. So it's wonderful to see that they're still around. And I know you've got some of the offspring of some of our original members, which is wonderful. So we have great legacies to continue. And you all are doing a great job. You really are.
Wow, Laury, thank you so much. That's just such an incredible history that you've been describing in terms of how the association developed, and then just how it grew, across the country from the two coasts, and all of the different changes that it's gone through. I just have a final question, and just looking at where we are today in 2020. The aging industry and care managers are getting a lot of attention. It's interesting to hear you talk about the Wall Street Journal. We've gotten a lot of press since March with the onset of the coronavirus pandemic. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on, what you think will be maybe short-term, long-term future for the association and for the aging industry. You spoke a little bit about the boomers and the very strong sort of psychological, generational, financial impact they can have. Tell us just any other thoughts you might have on the future of the industry and the association that might look forward to.
Bless you all in dealing with this COVID situation. You've been in my thoughts and prayers. I know it's a tough one. However, I think it's a challenge, but I think it's a real opportunity for you all. I've really been thinking about this one a lot because you all were top of mind when all of this started happening. And of course, now I'm thinking of all my peers and everybody that came forward and suddenly said, oh my goodness, we're now the vulnerable ones. The baby boomers have finally realized it's us. We're the ones that need attention. We're the ones that need care. We're the ones who can't necessarily depend on our kids. I think we knew we weren't going to be able to depend on our kids. But this kind of brought it forward because many of us thought assisted living or group environments were going to be the way that we would see our retirement going. But I think COVID has really made a lot of people rethink that. And I think it's really going to put care managers in demand. And this is my own personal opinion, is that it's really going to leave a door wide open for care managers in a lot of environments, in a lot of different situations. I think people are going to form informal groups to get together. I think they're going to seek out their own expertise, which would be you all, to coordinate care. They're not going to look at those group living situations after they've seen what has happened and the restrictions that have been formed on those, and some of the devastating results that have happened. It's been a real eye-opener for my generation. And I think we also know that our kids really don't want to be there at that time. They don't want our antiques, they don't want our photos, and they really don't want to worry about us either when it comes right down to it. Kind of sad, but true. And so I think you're going to see more and more of our generation coping with and recognizing and admitting finally that we're the ones that are going to need the help. You know, we may have dealt with our cousins or our parents, or there are a few of my friends who still have their parents around. I don't, unfortunately. Or spouses that need a lot of assistance. And I think they're beginning to realize they don't necessarily have the expertise to deal with it, but that there are people who do. And so the more publicity that you all can put out, plus I think you're going to see professionals leaving some of those organized settings and wanting to turn to more of the private settings that are going to need to be trained to be able to do that. And I'm really impressed with the fact that you've taken on the credentialing and that you're very open with your training modules. And I'm just in awe of what you've been able to do. We didn't have all the technology available to us, and that has just opened up a lot to a lot of people, and you all have done a great job with that, and I would encourage you to continue along that line. Having a virtual conference is something we never imagined having, although we could have used it at some of the disasters that we had. But you know, I think that's going to make it available to a lot of people that couldn't have come otherwise. And so that may be something that you end up doing in the future. That's what I'm hearing from other organizations, is that more people have joined in because of the virtual conferences. I hope it doesn't replace the in-person, because I think in-person is very important. Yeah. So I really think you have a wonderful future ahead of you, both as an organization and as a profession. I'm excited for you. I really am. So good luck.
Thank you, Laury. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us. And thank you again.
Mm-hmm.